Ever get that, like, totally irrational feeling your phone's about to die, even when it's, like, 80% charged?
Oh, yeah.
Or that urge to snack when you're barely even hungry?
Uh-huh.
That's your survival instinct, right?
Right.
And according to this Mark show, it could be seriously messing with us. This deep dive, we're going deep into his book, Your Survival Instinct is Killing You.
Yeah, it's a fascinating take. Schoen's whole deal is like our brains are basically wired for a world that doesn't exist anymore. Like we've got comfort and convenience on tap, but our instincts haven't quite caught up.
Okay, so we're basically in this constant state of like almost panic, even when there's no real danger.
Exactly. Even minor stuff, like slow Wi-Fi, traffic, it all triggers that primal fight or flight response.
Wild, right?
Totally. And Schoen kicks off the book with this crazy story. This patient back in '83, chronic hiccups for like over 2 years. Doctors were stumped. They even considered brain surgery. Can you believe that?
2 years? No way.
Uh,
Hiccups. That's insane.
Right. So they try hypnosis as like a last resort. Not only does it work, it completely cures the hiccups, but it kind of sends Schoen on this whole new path. He starts to see this link between the mind and body, how our survival instincts, when they go haywire, can create real physical symptoms.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does our ancient fight or flight system, the one designed for like saber-toothed tigers and stuff, how does that relate to like modern day stress?
So Schoen, he lays out these 6 stages of what he calls self-sabotage. And the point isn't to like eliminate anxiety altogether. It's more about understanding how it can spiral into something more destructive.
All right, so hit me with these stages. What's the breakdown?
Okay, so first up, you've got anxiety. That baseline tension, that feeling something's just a little off. Schoen uses this example of a Hollywood agent, right? Super high powered, totally driven. She can't seem to shut off even after everything's done. Constantly checking emails, even if they're not even urgent. That's anxiety simmering under the surface.
Yeah, that feeling of being on all the time, even when you're not actually doing anything. It's like our brains need constant stimulation, even if it's not necessary.
Right. And that leads to stage 2, discomfort. Our bodies pick up on that anxiety in subtle ways. Muscle tension, sleep problems, digestive issues, you name it. We might not even realize it's stress at first.
So it's like our body's trying to send us a signal, but our brains are just ignoring it.
Exactly. It's like we've all got this internal discomfort setting, and anxiety just keeps pushing us closer and closer to the edge. Stage 3 is fear. But it's not always that like in-your-face, heart-pounding fear. Schoen says his patients describe it more as this fear of losing control, of being completely overwhelmed.
So like not being able to sleep turns into this whole thing because you're afraid of not sleeping.
Precisely, because sleep, or rather the lack of it, it's completely outside your control in that moment, and that's where it gets really interesting. Stage 4, survival misjudgment.
Think about it this way. Our brains evolved to deal with like immediate life or death threats, right?
Yeah.
A rustling in the bushes could mean a predator, so our ancestors had to react quickly, no time for overthinking it.
Exactly.
But today, those rustling bushes are more likely to be like a notification on our phones, right?
You got it. And that's the heart of Schoen's comfort paradox. We're surrounded by convenience, instant food, on-demand entertainment, even climate control. But we're more sensitive to discomfort than ever. Our brains haven't quite adapted to this cushy, relatively safe world.
So we're basically overreacting to everything because our brains are stuck in survival mode.
Yep.
I can see how that could lead to some serious self-sabotage.
Exactly. Schoen gives a great example. Imagine our ancestors spending hours hunting and gathering compared to us, who can get a full meal delivered to our doorstep with a few taps on our phones.
No kidding. If our ancestors felt a pang of hunger, they couldn't just grab a snack bar or order takeout, right?
Yeah.
They had to work for it.
Exactly. That built a natural tolerance for discomfort. These days, even the slightest inconvenience, traffic, slow Wi-Fi, someone disagreeing with us online can trigger an outsized reaction.
So instead of a rumbling stomach being a minor annoyance, our brains are interpreting it as famine. We're all going to starve. Even if the only thing between us and a snack is walking to the kitchen.
Which brings us to the role of dopamine in this whole cycle. Have you ever noticed how certain activities, scrolling through social media, eating sugary foods, even shopping, provide this temporary sense of relief from
Oh,
stress.
absolutely. It's like a quick hit of happiness, but then it fades away pretty quickly.
Right, and that's dopamine at work. It's the feel-good chemical our brains release when we experience something pleasurable. But here's the thing. When we're anxious, our dopamine levels dip, leading to discomfort. Our brains crave that dopamine rush, even if it comes from unhealthy sources.
So we're essentially self-medicating with dopamine.
In a way, yes. And this is where Schoen's Hollywood agent Bethany comes back into the picture. Remember her flight anxiety?
Yeah, she was relying on those in-flight cocktails to calm her nerves.
Right. At first, it's just one drink to take the edge off, a quick dopamine boost to alleviate the discomfort of flying. But the problem is, those dopamine boosts are fleeting.
So she needs more and more to get the same effect. That's the danger of any addiction, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about substance addiction. We can become addicted to anything that provides that quick dopamine hit. Social media, video games, even work. This is stage 5. Severe symptoms. The anxiety has gone unchecked for so long that it starts manifesting in more serious ways. Insomnia, digestive issues, panic attacks.
It's like our bodies are waving a giant red flag trying to get our attention.
Mm.
So what do we do? How do we break free from this cycle of survival misjudgment and dopamine dependence? It's like our bodies are waving a giant red flag trying to get our attention. So what do we do? How do we break free from this cycle of survival misjudgment and dopamine dependence?
You know, it's interesting. Sean's really clear on this point.
Yeah.
We can't just like eliminate discomfort entirely. In
Right.
fact, trying to, it can actually backfire. It's
Okay.
more about learning to manage it, to retrain our brains to respond in a healthier way.
Okay, so give us the actionable steps here. How do we get our brains back on track?
Well, he talks about 3 main paths, and then they all kind of revolve around this idea of
Right.
working with our neurobiology, not against it. The first one is delaying gratification.
Okay.
Remember that microwave meal example?
Yeah.
It's about building tolerance for discomfort by choosing to wait, even when we don't have to.
So like putting down the phone, resisting that impulse to scroll, letting ourselves feel a little hungry before we reach for a snack.
Exactly. It's like we're strengthening our discomfort muscles, so to speak.
I like that.
The second path is embracing imperfection, and this one's about challenging those external expectations that drive so much of our anxiety.
Right. Easier said than done, though, right? In this world where it's like go all the time.
Oh, absolutely. But Schoen's point is that even small acts of imperfection can make a huge difference. You know, like trying something new and maybe not nailing it, letting go of the need to please everyone, accepting that good enough is sometimes perfectly fine.
It's like giving ourselves permission to be human, flaws and all.
Yes, exactly. And then the third path is creating routine. And this one might seem a little counterintuitive.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
how can routine possibly help with anxiety, right?
Right.
But think about it this way. Our brains, they crave predictability.
Yeah.
When we have a solid routine, even a simple one, it eases some of that survival mode hypervigilance.
Right. Because if your brain knows what to expect, even in a small way, it doesn't have to constantly be on the lookout for threats.
Exactly. Sean suggests things like establishing a regular sleep schedule, incorporating mindfulness practices, even just setting aside time for activities that you enjoy consistently.
So it's not about like becoming a robot. It's about building in those little pockets of calm and predictability throughout your day.
Yes. Yeah.
I like that a lot. This has been a really fascinating deep dive, I've got to say. So to wrap things up here, what's the one thing you hope our listeners walk away thinking about today?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it really goes back to Schoen's idea that a little bit of discomfort isn't just normal. It's actually essential for growth, for resilience.
Yeah.
In a world that's constantly telling us to avoid discomfort at all costs, maybe leaning into it just a little bit is the key to unlocking a whole new level of inner strength.
Love it. Little discomfort goes a long way.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic, so be sure to subscribe and leave a rating if you enjoyed the show. Until next time, keep those brains curious.